Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared Cast.
So it begins.
Welcome, folks, ladies and gentlemen and gentlethems of all ages. Hopefully you're not listening to this if you're a child, though, hopefully. Because this movie is not for children. But, welcome to a Jared Cast episode. I'm glad that that we're recording this after our, after getting all my disdain out for the Academy of Motion Picture, whatever, the Academy. I'm glad that now I can just cut loose and enjoy some good old-fashioned cannibalism. I can rejoice in that. But yeah, we're talking Fresh, which came out almost a month ago on Hulu, and I didn't know anything about it. I saw the clip of the two of them dancing, and then my brother recommended it, and I was like, okay, cool. But I didn't know which one of them was gonna be the cannibal. I didn't know which one of them was which one of them's perspective we were gonna have. So I was very pleasantly surprised by this movie. I'm excited to talk about it. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of how I'm doing. How are you doing, Jared?
I'm good. I'm also here. No, I'm good. I'm hyped to talk about this movie. It's our second cannibalistic journey. I guess we never did a formal review of Raw. We just talked about it a lot during the bracket. It's our second cannibalistic journey together, though, and I love that for us. Yeah, I'm doing good though. My week is solid. Wearing the same clothes back to back all the damn time. If you're watching the video version of these, yeah, week was good. It was solid, pretty average. Nothing too spectacular is happening in my life. Just writing and working. That's the grind.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. But while we are on the topic of eating and munching down, we got a very related top 5. We're gonna do the top 5 weirdest things that we have eaten. Hopefully, we're not pulling an Army Hammer, and hopefully you don't see cannibalism make an appearance on this list. But you never know. Jared's into some weird shit. He could be. I wouldn't be surprised. Picking out like somebody else's fingernails from your mustache. And on that note, I can't wait to hear what is on your list. So why don't you kick us off with your number 5?
Yeah. It's kind of weird because I
would hope so.
Well, it was I had a weird approach to it because I come from my family comes from the Philippines, where it's like if anything is edible, it's gonna be if we can chew it, we're gonna cook it.
Yeah.
So I kind of went into I kind of took a different approach. I mostly did weird flavor combinations for my top 5 list.
Okay.
So my number 5, these are things that I actually have encountered in life and actually have had people like say, "This was so good," and I'm like, "This is so weird. You have to know this is weird." And they didn't. They thought it was normal. They thought everybody ate these things. So the first one, my number 5, is a seasonal Lay's potato chips flavor. Chicken and waffles potato chips.
Terrible.
Absolutely, it's bizarre. Like it's the way Darius felt in Teddy Perkins' house. That's how I felt eating that chip, man. It's just
If the uncanny valley was a flavor, it would be chicken and waffles Lays.
It was just it still tasted like potato, but like I could get a faint hint of the maple, a faint hint of the chicken skin flavor. But it was just not good. It was not good. It was too weird for me. So yeah, it was weird enough that it made my number 5.
Yeah, fair. I like that approach. It wasn't what I was thinking, and it wasn't what I did. Um, and I'm happy to see it make an appearance. So I'm excited for the rest of your list. Those are disgusting. My number 5 was not disgusting, but rather just kind of pointless. A lot of people think it's weird. Other countries, obvious delicacy. But for our American and NA fam, escargot is my number 5. Some snails. Had it at a little French restaurant, and it was like it's just kind of rubbery. It's like rubbery crab or lobster. It just kind of has a worse texture and flavor. But like crab and lobster, less so crab, more so lobster. It's kind of just a bougie way to eat butter. And so it was just that. It was just butter. I didn't think it was that crazy because I knew it's accepted pretty widely in places, but yeah, that's my number 5.
Wow. Okay. Man, I've always wanted to try it. My friend
Yeah,
recommended a spot to me in SF, but I never got around to going.
It's worth trying just to like have a new texture and like a new kind of mouth feel.
Okay.
Because that's rare after you're like 13. You kind of get most things. And so it's worth trying, but it's not going to blow your dick off or anything.
Interesting. My number 4 also did not blow my dick off. It's like I used to like it when I was a kid, and now I just don't. It's just weird. It's not a good texture. My grandma likes to eat it. My brother likes to eat it. Basically, they take avocados, milk, corn, and sugar, and then they mash it up and freeze it, and just turn it into avocado ice cream with corn.
Okay.
I guess it tastes good to them. I don't know. To me,
Yeah.
it's not. It's one of those weird home recipes that just I don't know. It does not do it for me.
Yeah.
You get kind of a like I just don't. I also don't like the taste of milk. So like, it does taste heavily like milk. It doesn't taste like ice cream.
Makes
It
sense.
It just tastes like it just tastes like frozen avocados with milk, which is what it is.
Yeah.
So there's no churning. They just mash it with a fork. I don't mean to talk shit about my brother. I love my brother. I don't need to talk shit about my grandma. I love my grandma. But goodness gracious, I don't like that. That's weird. I don't like it.
No, I can't imagine how it tastes. Like I've had all of those things independently, but I can't picture it. I am glad they mash it because when you were rattling off the list, I was like, these textures together would be the worst cereal in the world. And so I was very glad when you said they mashed it and froze it. I would try it, but I don't have high expectations or hopes.
Yeah, it's not bad. Maybe I'll try. I'll make one for you without corn, and
Yeah.
you can check it out. I don't know.
I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a try. My number 4, I had the same feeling towards when it was presented to me. One of my good friends growing up, shout out to Wrong Song, his family owned a Chinese restaurant. And so we would just go there because it was genuinely great food. Like it's my favorite Chinese place back home. And so we were just there like any other day. And his mom comes out, nicest lady in the world, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to try some chicken feet?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Like, whatever. I'm not gonna get that opportunity often.
Yeah.
And so I did, and it was just like scraping bones with my teeth. There's not there's not a lot of meat on chicken feet, They
Right.
like seasoned it and like it felt steamed, but like it's just like chicken skin. Like when you
Yeah.
have like a chicken thigh or something with the skin still on it, it tasted like kind of just that part, but more inconvenient and worse tasting. Uh,
Interesting.
and so it was just kind of a whatever anticlimactic thing. But I'm glad I tried it because now I can say I've tried chicken feet.
Yeah. I've had Filipino chicken feet and I've had Chinese chicken feet when we were in China. I think it's just like different cultures just like different textures, which is weird. Like
Yeah.
I was watching Ugly Delicious, and David Chang, who's Korean American, and I think trained in French cuisine, went to China to try different fried rice recipes and stuff like that, and like he got cooked like this really fancy Chinese meal, but because the Chinese prefer like really like they like a lot of them in certain areas enjoy like kind of slimy textures, kind of gamey textures. He was like, I don't like this food, and she was like, this is really fancy food that chefs over here really like. I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, okay. And I think that's the mentality behind chicken feet. But I'm right there with you. Like I don't. I'd rather just
Yeah.
eat chicken skins, honestly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there's way better tasted parts of the chicken. And I get the whole use every part and I like that. I do appreciate that approach towards food and I think America needs to do that shit.
Yeah.
But it's not the prime cut that I'm looking for.
No, no. Maybe if it was breaded, I would like it. But
Yeah.
or
Maybe.
maybe I don't know. I
There's
don't know.
not enough there to like even
To
fix
yeah,
it.
that's true. My number three, my friend just ordered this when he was like I was carpooling with him. We stopped by a Starbucks in Vaughn's, in the middle of a Vaughn's, and he ordered this, and I was like, "What? What are you thinking, man?" He got a large matcha iced tea latte, and then he put a shot of espresso on top of it.
Like a little floater of espresso.
And then he mixed it. So it was like this it looked like vomit. It looked like vomit and it didn't
Yeah.
taste very good either. The espresso ruined the matcha, which wasn't very good because it was Starbucks matcha. And then the matcha ruined the espresso, which wasn't very good because it was Starbucks espresso. So, like I I struggle with people sometimes and the flavors that
Yeah.
they put together. Like, what makes you think this is okay? What makes you think
No.
that you're not a criminal now? Like, who gave you permission?
Yeah. It's like I feel like the thought is I want the taste of matcha, but I need more caffeine, so throw a little extra shot. And that's just the bougie name that they know for caffeine. And so I don't know.
This
I
person,
will not be trying that
this
one.
no, but this guy was a barista like 4 years ago. Like
Oh, jeez, maybe not then.
he
Yeah.
knows what good espresso is supposed to taste like. He knows what good cold brew. I should have led with that. Like, he knows what good cold brew
Yeah.
is supposed to taste like. But it just, I tasted his drink and I was like, man, you're not well.
No.
You need a girlfriend.
That's weird.
Yeah, but he's married now and he has a kid, so hopefully his
Okay.
life is better. That he's not,
Yeah.
so he's not drinking matcha tea lattes with a shot of espresso.
Or
God,
maybe he found another psychopath and at least he's got that. My
Yeah.
number three isn't it's not too out there in terms of ability or accessibility. Because I feel like this is a little novelty in a lot of like candy stores and like some grocery stores or just places that want to be a little quirky. They tend to just have this, and that's a chocolate covered cricket, which
nice.
are decent. It's just
Yeah,
like chocolate and saltiness with like a little bit of crunch in there. It's fine. It's good enough. The thought of it is kind of weird, and it's hard to only focus on the flavor with like that in your mind when you're not used to eating bugs. But the flavor was fine. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good time. So yeah, not a lot to it. But my number three was chocolate covered crickets.
yeah. I wish I need a bug guy, man. I want to eat more bugs because I like
You need a
cricket.
bug dealer.
I do. I like the taste of cricket. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also had
Maybe find a weird market near you.
in Mexico. I got a lollipop with a scorpion in the middle.
Okay, yeah, I've seen those too.
I never. I was saving it for a special occasion, but I don't remember where I put it. It's somewhere around the house.
It crawled out. It worked its way out of there, and it's roaming around, plotting its revenge.
How crazy would that be if that happened to someone like with a bug? Did I ever tell you about when I went to Pike Place Market in Seattle?
No,
So this was in
you get bit by a fish.
no, even weirder. It was there was it. So I think it was 2000. I want to say 2008, maybe 2009. My family took a road trip all the way as far as north as Vancouver, just for a couple hours, and then we went down. We stayed mostly in Seattle to stay with with my mom's childhood friend and her family, and yeah, man. We went to the Pike Place. It was really cool, really lively. Everything that everybody says about it is valid. I got to see people throw a fish and catch it, and like a fish bigger than me at the time. And I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome, manliness." And on the corner of one of the booths, I swear on everything that is holy, is the first time I ever saw a monkfish. First time I ever saw a monkfish in person.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it
it's weird.
it resuscitated in the ice and started crawling out of the
Oh
ice.
fuck!
And then it got like halfway, like it was like dangling from like half of its tail, and it was just dangling in midair. People were screaming and running away, and it just started spewing this like brownish tan liquid
Oh
out of its
fuck!
not even spewing, but just like it was kind of just slowly
Yeah.
flowing out onto the ground, and then it was like swinging for a bit, and then it just stopped. It died It died almost in midair. So
That's a horror movie.
yeah, man, it's been in my brain this whole time. Like I've been wanting to incorporate it at some point in some movie. I just haven't found it. But that was like one of the crazy because I sat there and I almost sat on the ground squatting, watching it for like 10 minutes just to see what would happen.
Yeah, you gotta.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. That's probably why I'm so okay with gore, like as an adult.
Yeah, that's fair. Did you buy it? Did you eat it after?
No, that's like a $300 fish. Anyway, my number 2. Sorry for the sidetrack. We are talking about gruesome meats, so that's okay.
It's welcome.
My number 2 was recommended to me by San Francisco people, and yeah, man, I was not sold on this. I'm still not really sold. Maybe I just need the right ingredients or something. I don't know. But someone recommended to put olive oil and sea salt on vanilla ice cream.
Oh yeah, I've heard salt. I haven't really heard the olive oil, but people are weird with that shit.
I've never had it this way, but certain like stores have sold like their brand of like pre-olive oil mixed vanilla ice cream.
It's nasty.
But when I had it with the stuff that I just had at home, I was just not impressed. It was a little too weird. The silkiness of the olive oil didn't really match well with the vanilla. I would just rather put olive oil on another thing.
Yeah, just put it on bread.
Just put it on bread. Yeah, put olive oil and salt on bread, and you're good. You don't need to do, I'm down to just eat a whole focaccia and then do ice cream for dessert. Like I don't need them at the same time.
No.
And so that was my number 2, just because I went out of my way to try it, and I was disappointed.
Yeah, I'm good. There's better versions of both of those. One of the better versions is just independently have vanilla ice cream. But I digress. My number 2 comes courtesy of none other than Guy Fieri. One of his restaurants.
Long may he reign.
All hail the king.
All hail the guy.
He's just the guy, dude. Um, but at one of his restaurants, preteen or teenage me saw this on the menu, and I was like, "That's hardcore," and so I got it. And it was also much like all of these, just fine. That's kind of been the theme of my top five. My number one is not just fine, so there's a little teaser for you.
Nice.
But that is alligator jambalaya.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was like the jambalaya was decent. It'd be what you kind of would expect from like an almost tacky put a chef's name on this and it'll do numbies type restaurant. It eventually closed down, like it wasn't a hit.
Yeah.
And so like the jambalaya was good. It was like it was good. Had not enough kick to it, but that's not surprising. But the alligator itself was real chewy. And so that with rice is a weird experience because you'll either chew the big pieces of alligator and have like a pool of rice just sitting in your mouth waiting to catch up, or you just like eat rice and then like a bite of the alligator and then you're just like kind of pausing your meal to get through it. The flavor of it was good. I enjoyed that part of it, but it was just too chewy to like keep the mouthfeel around. But overall, it was fine.
Nice. Yeah, I've had alligator meat, but not in a jambalaya, so I'd be interested to try it. I do
Yeah.
agree that it's basically just chewy chicken as
Yeah.
it tastes. Um, um, yeah, I wonder how like what's it? How do you even like tenderize something like that? Because those are dinosaurs that
Yeah.
survived for millions of
You're
years.
gonna be pounding that thing with a mallet for like an hour.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Put it in a massage chair overnight or some shit.
I don't know, man. Yeah, my number one should be a crime. And it was introduced to me by a douchebag who was a douchebag in first grade. He grew up to become a douchebag. He hurt a friend of mine very badly. So I have no problem shitting on Steven Gyrock. Fuck you, Steven Gyrock.
Yeah, Steven, fuck you.
Fuck you. You're an asshole. Um, this guy put, oh my God. He would put Cheetos and Doritos in the middle of his peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Degenerate behavior for sure.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if this guy grew up to be a becomes a serial killer later on in life. It was absolutely psycho, and he was like acting like it was normal. He let me taste it. I thought it was absolutely disgusting even then. Even when I was a little kid and I had no taste and I was putting chopped hot dogs in everything, like you know, like there like. The crunch was criminal. The cheese interacting with the peanut butter and the tartness of the jelly. The jelly wasn't even tart. It was like generic like store like over sweetened jelly.
Yeah.
It like ugh. It was a bad PB&J to begin with. Sorry, Steven's mom. I'm sure you're a good person.
She raised an asshole.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's a waste of peanut butter jelly sandwich, a waste of Doritos, a waste of Cheetos. Three things that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I wouldn't be surprised if he still eats it to this day because he's such a dick.
Little treat.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's you know, I've been to Europe, I've been to Asia, I've been to different parts of the United States, and that's still to me the worst weird thing that I've eaten.
Yeah. Big pass on that one as well. Like I'm 100% on board with chips and sandwiches.
Yes.
I think it's a great move, but not all sandwiches, and that's pretty much the sandwich. Don't do that. Just don't do that. That's a criminal activity right there.
Yeah.
My number one is borderline criminal as well. When I was in elementary school, I was a little hustler. I was the kid like selling candy at recess. And I don't know how this started. I think it was a dare. Actually, it must have been a dare, but somebody paid me to eat my own human hair. And I did it because I was like, sometimes they like just fall in to like your mouth or something. Like I've tasted hair before, so why not make like a couple bucks off of it? I think it was like $5. But then it became like a thing, and people would just like pay me to eat a hair. And so it happened not like daily. It happened maybe like 5 times. I probably got like a total of $30 or something to just eating hair. And so human hair is my number one.
I'm just imagining that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where Marion's taking shots and everybody's passing money around.
Yeah.
And it's you, but you're just eating it.
Just me with like 1 or 2 hairs, depending on the size of the bill. Just,
Oh man. Okay, that's not that bad. I thought you were like literally like taking like chopstick bites. And,
no, just like a couple hairs.
Okay.
But like I probably had like a small handful by the end of the the journey.
Oh man. Yeah, I was not expecting you to say that. That was great.
I'm glad I could provide that story to the world. I don't think I've ever told that story that I did that. There's some trauma. It'll be in therapy. Speaking of therapy, should we go on to the movie? Because it's like half our episode.
Sorry. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I'm happy.
Let's not, because it's time for Jared reads poorly written reviews by Quinn Chow because it's funny and it makes him laugh and stuff.
Return of the Chow. Return of the Chow.
Yeah, once again, I go to my usual route of IMDb filter by only showing the 1-star reviews, going by least helpful, and my friend Quinn Chow makes an appearance inevitably at the top of that list. And I love it, man. It's just classic Quinn Chow, so you know what to kind of expect at this point. So we'll just dive right in. Give it a 1 out of 10 as per usual.
Yes.
A bit intense at the end, but overall full of super annoying overuse scene. Bored to freaking death.
Yes.
I don't think he expected people to read all of his reviews because they're all like just fill in the blanks. It's a Mad Lib that he just keeps reusing, and I love it. This film starts with a woman, Noah, checking photo on her phone, and she talking with her female friend on phone scene. As turn out, this film is about a woman, Noah, need to survive the killing of a man, Steve, who want to sell her meat. When I started laughing randomly at the beginning of this episode, it's because I only read the word "he want to sell her meat."
Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Entire film full of boring conversation and annoying overuse scene, such as overuse of the walking scene, overuse of the searching scene, overuse of the staring scene, overuse of the bathing scene, overuse of the calling names scene, overuse of the eating scene, overuse of the drinking scene, overuse of the song playing at the background scene, overuse of the blackout scene, overuse of the changing camera angle scene, overuse. You can't change the camera angle. overuse of the driving scene, overuse of the texting scene, overuse of the talking on the phone scene, overuse of the dancing scene, overuse of the shouting scene, overuse of the kissing scene, overuse of the cutting meat scene, make the film unwatchable. At the end, Noah survive after Steve and his wife Anne been killed. That's it. Wasting time to watch.
Man, dude, I love this guy. I
He's
love
the
him.
greatest. That might be the most scenes we've gotten out of Quinn Chow.
Changing camera angles.
What does that mean? You have to keep every scene has to be just one shot. You can't move the camera at all.
He's laying a perfect trap because if they try to change that, then he's going to say overuse of no changing camera angle
Yeah.
scene.
Why does every camera angle like saying you can't talk or like walk or eat or have music over the background of anything? What are you allowed to do?
All right, before we fall too deep in the rabbit hole, Fresh is a film that came is the directorial debut of Mimi Cave, a brand new director. Yeah, like I said, I didn't know anything about this movie. I vaguely knew it was a cannibal horror comedy, but I didn't know specifically why or who was doing what. I have not seen Normal People, so I wasn't familiar with Daisy Edgar-Jones. I'm very familiar with Sebastian Stan. I've seen him a lot of things now. I think he's great in I, Tonya. He's great as the Winter Soldier. He's just generally a really cool. Just generally has a really awesome screen presence and really is not afraid to get into the dark vulnerabilities of his characters, and I think he succeeds as Steve/Brandon. I did not know Andrea Bang was going to be in this movie. Andrea Bang played Penny. And she, I knew her because I've seen a few episodes of Kim's Convenience. And I was like, that voice sounds familiar. I know it, and so I'm happy that they showed her face finally. But yeah, I gave this movie an 8.5. I think Fresh is pretty fresh, especially for a movie that had a couple horror misses, or a year that has had a couple horror misses this year. I'm happy that someone actually cares about the genre. Lauren Kahn, the screenwriter, said that she was a fan of horror movies and that she wanted to write a movie that both horror fans and non-horror fans can enjoy. I think this movie absolutely excels at that. I think the performances are all perfect. I do think that there's a specific inner conflict that happens near the third act that I think they could have gone deeper in, and they just didn't. They just swept it under the rug and kept going. I think that was a little disappointing to me. I think also there was the movie's a little too long. I think maybe 5 minutes less. Cut it down 5 minutes. I think that would have been better. I'm not sure what I would cut, but like there were just moments in the second act that felt like it was going on for a bit.
I would have cut the camera angle changing scene. I think that one could have gone.
But overall, like I really appreciate this movie, man. I appreciate movies that aren't afraid to get weird. I appreciate that it's kind of a mainstream hit now, even though it's very not mainstream. As far as cannibal horror goes, this is a good step in the right direction, especially in a post-Raw world. I don't know if this was directly influenced by Raw. It doesn't feel like it. But
there is, I think I caught one reference to it. When they drive to Cottage Grove, air quotes, there's a shot of a road with like the exact same tree layout that they used to like jump out at people and shit. And it looked like the same road, like maybe they like took stock footage of it. Because none of the other shots of trees look like that. They're all like giant great pines and stuff. And then out of nowhere, you get that for a bit. So I think that might have been a nod. But besides that, I didn't really catch much else.
yeah, it's interesting though. It's interesting. I do I think as a comedy, I think this movie succeeds. As a horror, I think it succeeds. As a horror comedy, I think it succeeds. I there are of course some things that I wish they would dive deeper in, but I know not everyone is ready for meat and potatoes cannibal cinema. So I think this movie overall is a perfectly good popcorn film that you can enjoy on a date, if your date is cool, or that you can enjoy just with your friends and have a party, drink some wine, and yeah, I think this is a really really fun movie, so I gave it an 8.5.
Yeah, fair enough. I watched this with Mango, my significant other, and she still hates me for showing her Raw. Uh, she brings it up every time we talk about movies. Um, is not over it. But so I started watching this with her, knowing nothing about the plot or what was going to happen.
Oh shit!
And so she was a little upsetty spaghetti that it was another cannibalism movie. But she did enjoy this one.
Yes.
And I think it's a very obvious difference between how the subject matter is treated, and we'll probably get into that.
Yeah.
But I also enjoyed this film. I think it was a lot of fun. It is definitely not perfect. A lot of the writing at times feels like it's kind of switching directions. You mentioned a certain thing being swept under the rug in the third act. And I think they just kept kind of doing that with themes they wanted to explore. They would kind of present one, touch on it, and then like it would feel like maybe that was like the thesis of the movie, or like the overall like what they wanted to really let you take away from it. And then they would kind of just ignore it entirely and not quite hit it home. Not that they really have to, because it is, I think, at the end of the day, meant to be a pretty widely enjoyable film. It didn't feel like they were trying to be art house with it the way that Raw or a lot of horror movies can be. And so I don't really like put too much weight on that. I think performances all around were pretty good. I do think Sebastian Stan kind of falls off in his performance a bit. I think he started a lot stronger than he finishes. Um, I think his acting as a somebody pretending to be a psychopath is a lot better than his actual letting out the psychopath type behavior. But that said, he still did a great job overall. That was just one of the only weaknesses I found in the acting department. Um, but overall, I enjoyed it. I think it's a nice, fun movie. It's cool to see a lightly explored topic be explored lightly in a way, and so that was nice to see. Like you said, the comedy of it hits. The great dancing scenes hit. I don't think they were overuse. Um, and yeah, so overall, I gave it a 7.8. I thought it was an enjoyable film. It's not one that I'm like gonna be raving at if somebody's like, "Hey, like what have you seen that's good recently?" It's one that like might come up, but it's not one that I'm gonna be like, "Oh, you gotta see this movie."
Yeah.
But I don't regret seeing the movie. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and that's my thoughts.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Um, you want to talk about genre first or story first?
We can get into a little bit of genre.
Cool. Um, yeah. Going in, I was actually worried most about the comedy aspect, but I think it definitely landed for me. I appreciate the kind of nods to slapstick, um, and especially towards the end, people slipping and falling during a fight. I think that's realistic. It's a more realistic, b more hilarious. Like I never thought I would laugh to see someone get hit in the head with a meat tenderizer, but here we are.
Yeah.
Um, I do appreciate the kind of sick and twisted sense of humor that especially when Noah's seducing, re-seducing Brendan, and she's like trying to get on his good side by like making jokes about eating people. I love that those things are even just on that those lines were just even on paper. I love the kind of light approach to cannibalism that way. Um, and yeah, man, I don't know, like you're more of a you're more of a comedy connoisseur. What did you think about that part of it?
Yeah, I like that the comedy. It was varied. It was varied. That was, I guess that's the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for. Like in the end, you have a lot of slapstick. In the beginning, you've got a lot of like satire and more like
Yeah.
of a modern dialogue heavy approach to comedy. And both of them paid off well. And I think bookending it with that kind of difference helps a lot. And there is physical humor in the beginning as well. The dude's scarf dipping into the leftovers was amazing, but it's not slapstick. But that satirical take on dating sets a nice strong pace to where it kind of balances the laugh at this that they were like trying to get you to have that type of attitude they're trying to get you to have, and also like think about it and like consider also heavily so that the horror pays off later too. Like in the beginning when they are satirizing modern dating, um, it has that exact thing. They're like, we want you to consider what it's like to date people online, what it's like to date as a woman. Like we want you to consider all these things, but also like haha scarf and potatoes. Like so it's a nice
Yeah.
balance, and then it balances well with the horror later too, with the slapstick and like slipping in blood. They want you to both be like, haha, slipped in blood, and also like that's a person. That's somebody who's like has an identity. Like here's their photos, here's their clothes, here's like the names of some people who care about them, and so it's like it's funny, but it's also feels real, and so because of that, the horror and the comedy both land, and that's exactly what you want out of a horror comedy.
Yeah, man, I agree. And the cannibalistic aspect of it is interesting too because it's not really done in a body horror type way, which is what we've seen, which is most of what we've seen
Yeah.
before in cannibal horror. It's more done in a way it's like social cannibal horror where
Hmm.
these where the woman's body is literally commodified and consumed by men. Um,
Hmm.
and so, did that aspect of the film land for you? Was it too heavy-handed, or was it like okay still, or did you really like it?
I liked it. I think it's one of the things that make this film most unique. Like
Yeah,
we've seen, um, Survivor tries to escape situations.
yeah,
It's been a mainstay in horror, and it will continue to be. And so I think that part keeps it fresh, pun intended. Um, where it like it's when you show cannibalism, you're going to have a visceral reaction. For more standard cannibal movies like Raw, which I'm just going to constantly keep bringing up, um, that's where the horror comes from. They want you to feel uncomfortable at the body horror you're seeing. But in this, they're like I said earlier, like that's a person, and so like think about that, and that's why you're cringing, but you don't want to like vomit. You don't want to look away because you're
right,
so horrified at what you're seeing. So you still have an adjacent effect that it doesn't hit as hard. Like this movie didn't scare me. I wasn't like repulsed by it really at any moment,
right.
except for maybe the thigh prosciutto that he cuts off. Um, besides
So
that,
crazy.
it's and when she bites his dick off, that's I cringed at that one. Um, but for the most part, you're not like physically scared, but you are made uncomfortable, and so it ties into things that they want you to think about and scare you with.
Yeah, I think you touched on something that for me was the biggest. If this movie has a thesis, despite its despite it kind of being all over the place in the third act, I think if this movie has anything that's any one big theme that sticks out, it's the the danger that women face in modern dating.
Yeah.
And I think so I think yeah, I agree. The horror the cannibal horror isn't the repulsion at the mutilation of the body. It rather the horror. It's the horror uh is we've spent 30 minutes relating to being in the mind of and spending time with a very cool young woman. Noah is a very likable protagonist, and so
Hmm.
and we feel sympathy for her. Um, I know for myself, like dating post college in the pandemic era is very very difficult. And I but you know it doesn't hold a candle to what Noah's going through,
Hmm.
and so I related deeply to her plight, and because of that, it's the horror is more about the danger of, oh shit, I'm gonna lose every single piece of what is me, of my physical body, uh, because in order to keep a man in order to keep these men happy, these rich men happy.
Hmm.
And so that danger, I think, lands really really well and factors into the story really really well. And yeah, yeah, um,
Yeah. Yeah, the that thesis really is the strong one. When I said that they kind of sweep their thesis under the rug, the second act pretty much has like none of that. There's
yeah,
dabbles here and there, but it really departs and then it tries to bring it back. Um, but they're heavy-handed with it, not in an obnoxious way. That's not a
no,
knock. If anything, it's a compliment because they pulled it off.
yeah, and you kind of
Um,
need to be with comedy and horror.
Exactly, and so it fits the genre, um, and so hitting it so hard with the comedy early, and then being so upfront about it with the body horror scenes. All the body parts that he takes first are like super sexualized. Typically, the first one he takes from her is his ass or her ass, and then he's seen like always eating thighs and shit like that. So
Yeah,
it's a very sexual experience for that, and the clips of people who are actually eating it feel very sexual. A lot of the cinematography is super sexual. It's always like close ups, like super close ups in this nice voyeuristic way.
yeah,
And so the literal like commodification of women's bodies is so heavy handed that it works in its favor. It's not trying to hide what it is about, and I really appreciated that.
yeah. I guess we can segue from that into story then. So which themes did you feel like were specifically were swept under the rug that could have been explored deeper, or should have just
Yeah.
not been in the movie?
So the dangers of dating as a female definitely was. The middle ish had some good moments because there's like weird self defense tips throughout the
Yeah,
movie where she's like putting keys between her fist, which also has a nice callback later.
yeah,
Um, and so that was also one thing they did do good in the second act. Um, but they touch on like the taboo of eating people, um, but they kind of don't hammer it with and this is mostly in the third act when she's pretending to be into it basically. There's a lot of moments where she eats a woman that she talked to, for fuck's sake,
yeah,
but there's no like repercussions. We see her like making herself throw up and stuff, but I don't feel the guilt that she would be feeling and dealing with, and I kind of wanted her to explore that. Um, she talks a lot to Penny. That could have been the catalyst, was asking how the date was and like being like, fuck dude, I had to do this, like, and just have her dealing with like having to throw her entire morals out the window to
Yeah.
satisfy this dude, which also touches on the dating theme. And so it would have been nice to see that hit a little bit harder. Those were like the two big ones that jumped out that I feel like they brought up but didn't quite nail.
Yeah, I especially agree with the second part. I think that was the thing that stuck out to me the most, because you know you have a really great actress on your hands, and you have
Yeah.
a really interesting editing style. Like, why not spend more time on that?
Yeah.
I know I mentioned that the movie was too long, but if that length was devoted to that, I would have been fine with it. Like, I would have been fine with an extra 2 minutes, extra 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate the way they cut it when she first takes a bite. I thought that was really cool. That little montage.
Yeah.
The editor, Martin Pensa. He worked a lot with Jean-Marc Vallée. I don't know if you've seen any of his works.
I don't think so.
He did Dallas Buyers Club and Wild and Big Little
Okay.
Lies.
I've seen
Yeah.
Dallas Buyers and Wild.
Yeah, Jean-Marc Vallée had a really interesting style of editing where like memories would literally flash and change frames entirely. And I really love that style. So, even though he passed away, I'm happy that Martin Pence has kept that kind of style alive. But I do wish we took a moment inside the cell with her after that. Maybe instead
Yeah.
of cutting to Molly on the table, and Sebastian or Brendan working on her body, maybe we stay with Noah. That would have been really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely agree.
And then the other thing that I felt was swept under the rug, actually, for me, was the kind of meta humor in it. It's barely in there. There are like maybe 2 or 3 jokes, and those are fine. Like, but it was like, I feel like everybody feels like they need to do it now with horror movies, and I wish they wouldn't. I wish that
Yeah.
horror would just be the danger, not let's make fun of the danger and then go into the danger. Like, for instance, like the biggest example to me is Paul arriving at the scene, played by Dio Okenie. Yeah, he kind of has a little get out moment where he gets out of his car, he hears a gunshot, he's like, "Nah, I know the black dude dies," and then he drives away. And it's funny, but I wish that they gave a legit conflict in him, like, and I wish they gave him a little more of a struggle, a little more of an obstacle to escape, something to heighten the danger, especially in that sequence, because the danger feels heightened for the women for sure. Like,
Yeah.
when Noah, Molly, and Penny are all trying to escape, and they're all trying to find shelter, and get a ride out of there, like, maybe have them meet, maybe Paul sees them and he chooses to save himself instead. I would have much preferred something like that instead of just a throwaway meta joke making fun of horror. It's fine when the Scream franchise does it, but every time I see it somewhere else, it just feels disingenuous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mostly because there is satire in here, but it's not genre satire. And so they kind of like dip their toes in. And for meta, you kind of have to either fully commit or just don't bother. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to. There's not an obligation. Um, yeah, I didn't really, it didn't stand out to me too much when I watched it, but now that you bring it up, I'm like, yeah, that's they kind of half-ass shoe in some of those moments.
Did you see X by
Yeah,
A24?
yeah, recently too.
I feel the same way about it. Like, I could
Mhm.
have done away
But
without.
they did a little better.
Yeah.
Because they almost fully leaned in, but they didn't quite do that.
Yeah, I mean, like when you're copying a 1970s like porn aesthetic, like it's gonna get meta cinematic no matter what you do. Like you kind of have to do
Yeah.
that, address it. I just wish they didn't do it in the like sitting around the living room and talking about it. I was like, get this scene out of here, man.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, for fresh though, those are the only things that didn't feel fresh to me. Everything else, especially the performance by Daisy Edgar-Jones, that's another thing I want to zero in on if you want. This movie, the most of the characters are pretty thin, except for Noah, but what's really nice and thick and juicy and meaty and fatty are the relationships portrayed in the screenplay, and especially the relationship between Noah and Steve or slash Brandon, or Noah slash Molly. I think those two relationships were absolutely brilliant. I was wondering if you had any notes about them or.
Yeah, I think she played a great like pair with pretty much everyone
Yeah.
that she was on screen with. Like even down to Chad, the first guy.
Yeah.
Which maybe my favorite joke is after she finally gets through and gets her phone, the first text to pop up is like, "Hey, you up?" from Chad. Top notch. But like even down to that, every time it's a completely different interaction. We see kind of the code switching that women have to do, especially when
Yeah.
on dates. And she nailed that part of it, especially. She's like fake nice to Chad. She is interested but hesitant towards Steve at first. And then later playing on that and knowing that she has this power to like seduce because it's so easy because dudes are so fucking blind to everything that like matters in terms of like seduction and romance. And so like seeing how easy it is for her to switch that on, and then like the girl mance that is Molly and her that's like pseudo romantic, but it's not at all because they just really care about each other and are great friends.
Yeah.
Is also super genuine. You see the real her, and then you kind of see how the parts of that bleed into the other dynamics with the characters, and I loved that shit. I don't know, like her performance was great. I don't think she was weak when she had solo scenes, but she really excelled in like I guess technically ensemble, but with a duo.
Yeah, man. I love that the relationship between Noah and Molly is sweet, and the movie never says like, it doesn't say explicitly friendships matter more than dating, but
Yeah.
that is kind of another big theme in the movie, and I think choosing to show Molly's dedication to her friend was really awesome. Like, and kind of going headfirst into danger is really really interesting as well. And I think it's the most noble character trait in the film. In a film where virtue kind of has to be tossed out of the window in favor of survival. I appreciate that they kept Molly as kind of like this noble knight character, and she does get the final kill at the end, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
she's fucking badass the whole time. She like
Yeah,
she does all of the fighting pretty much. Like Noah bites the dick off, but like after they're like kind of on equal terms, like Molly
yeah,
carries. She carries that shit.
it's great. Yeah, man. Jonica T. Gibbs. I'm looking forward to seeing her in the future because this movie, as far as I know, was like Hulu's biggest thing so far since Pam and Tommy.
Genuinely, I would love for her to be a new addition to Atlanta with Van. Like just have
Ooh,
them be friends, so we get like just like the same type of friendship, but with Van. I
yeah.
think would like she would nail that style of comedy.
Yeah, man, I love it. I love it. And yeah, man, it's interesting. Those first 30 minutes really lean into like a lot of rom-com tropes.
Yeah.
And so I think having a very kind of I I'm trying not to like sound too male gazy on the thing that is about the male gaze. But no, it is a genuine like compliment to the film and to the filmmaker for choosing Daisy Edgar-Jones because she is a very beautiful person. She kind of has this doe-eyed expression that, like you said, that has to switch and adapt in different social situations, and and it definitely like helps you through those first 30 minutes before you even know what the movie's about. Like it's just you're so invested in her and her happiness and you don't want anything bad to happen to her, so the danger after that first 30 minutes automatically gets heightened.
Definitely.
And it makes those romantic sequences in the second and third act with or in the third act with Brendan, it makes those romantic scenes like that much more twisted and that much more interesting because like there is a part of her that really still like thinks that that's like obviously she's doing it to manipulate and to but like there's a reason why it feels natural, right? There's like she's recalling what made him what made him special in the first place, right? His sense of humor, right? His comfortable his comfortability,
Comfort.
his, just his demeanor is so comfortable, like in conversation, and he like the kind of open book, like she, uh, she's recalling the things that she liked about him in the first act, and that's cool. Like that's awesome. Like it's like
Yeah.
really it's really disturbing and twisted and sad, deeply sad, but like also really cool that she's able to like to turn the tables on him and he doesn't even realize it. Yeah, man. Very very unique relationship. This romantic relationship. If it even is a romantic relationship, because Steve is kind of using her as a means to an end in the first act, and then genuinely feels attracted to her later on, which is gross.
Yeah. Nasty. Also, it's heavily alluded, but his wife was also a victim, right?
Yes.
Cool. Just making sure I didn't miss some line where she's like, "Nah, this just happened."
Yeah, I think it's implied that Anne is Sammy, and she just changed her name, and he changed her face.
Gotcha.
Because, yeah, she if there's the message in the magazine, right? If you're reading this, he likes you. Congratulations, keep fighting.
Yeah.
But then, it looks like Anne went through, or Sammy went through some sort of transformation into Anne, not just like a physical one, but like a mental one, where she started joining him.
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome, I guess.
I
Like
guess.
this got my freedom, so I might as well keep this up.
Yeah, man, it's weird. Yeah, I could be entirely wrong, but there's like every single character, or not every single character, sorry. Noah and Brendan both grab her face with two hands. She grabs her own face with two hands when she's looking at herself in the mirror. I think she changed her face because Sammy's face was obscured in the photo rack.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
yeah. I don't know though. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Technique, cinematography, editing, thoughts, music.
A few. No, I think we, I think we touched on most of them pretty well. I do like the voyeuristic close-ups. They do
Yes.
kind of overuse close-ups, but in like the traditional way. For the style they choose, they don't. But if it was like traditional cinematography, it would be too many.
Yeah.
But using it to like be in Noah typically or a different character's perspective is super nice. Like when she's falling in love, she's like looking at his eyes as he looks at something, or like just his jawline, and you get these like real close, often uncomfortable later on close-ups that pair well with each other when they are nice and romantic, and when they are kind of horrific and gross to see. nasty ass rich men eating body parts. And so I loved that. I think they absolutely killed it in the close-ups department. I do like the style that they went with on the editing front. I think you touched on that super well. It was unique enough that it matched their ratio of comedy and horror. Like it fit the puzzle pieces together super nicely. Um, yeah, as far as music goes, they got some bangers in here. We
Yeah.
Shazammed a couple. I was vibing.
Yeah.
It didn't like stand out to me as super noteworthy. But there are some good tracks. They have a good soundtrack to it. Um, but from a technical standpoint, I think it's more of one of those sum of its parts type movies. I don't think that like I'm walking away being like the cinematography of this shit was brilliant, but like
Yeah.
everything else was kind of mid. Shout out the Revenant, and but I think the sum of its parts is a very unique style that pairs with the subject matter, kind of watering it down, but keeping the horror of it true, and then combining all of that with comedy. I think it worked out for them.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the those specifically the close-ups that were like with really wide angle lenses. I just love those in horror.
Yeah,
I got a big soft spot for those things. I think the movie sounds beautiful. Like the chewing sounds, the breathing, the heavy breathing while eating. Oh, so good. The
yeah.
sound of the knife going through the meatball, perfect. Um, yeah, man. I made sure to like take my preamp and like plug it into my like PlayStation controller, and so I can use these headphones and really crank it because I wanted this movie to be loud because I heard the soundtrack was really good. And the soundtrack was really good. I feel like the use of pop music and Sebastian Stan kind of dancing while carving up people, like I feel like those are the kinds of scenes that make a nice gateway for mainstream audiences into more twisted
Yeah.
cinema.
Yeah, their approach to that was very Dexter. If you've seen that.
I've seen a little bit. I've seen a little bit, yeah. But yeah, man, I hope that people who are fans of this movie will take even further leaps into crazier movies than this. But this movie was very crazy, very good on its own. Anything else you want to say about it?
No, I think we covered it pretty good. It's definitely worth a watch, especially if you want something that's it's it's not light by any means,
No, no, no.
but something that's like it's easy and fun,
Yeah.
but like easy as like cannibalism can get. Don't like if you listen to this and you haven't seen it, don't go out and be like, oh, this shit's like a lighthearted popcorn film. They're eating people. Like
Yeah.
it's still fucked.
Keep in mind that this is me talking, and
Yeah.
yeah.
We're desensitized to this shit. We're out here watching some real fucked up stuff.
Yeah, man. Favorite scenes?
Let's do it.
Go for it.
I don't know why cannibals love dancing so much, but I'm glad they do. Cause like, a girl walks home alone at night is cannibalistic, and they all got dancing scenes in them, and I love
Yeah.
it. The dancing was fantastic. Even like pretty much every time they did it when they were cooking, the first date, when they're dancing back at her place, um, when they're dancing together and they're doing like the like
Yeah.
super disco-y moves where it was nice. So definite shout out to that. I've mentioned the dinner with Chad a lot, and I think it sets the tone of the film super nicely, and wraps it up super nicely. So definitely that as well. Her dinner with the meatball, I think, is super tense. It's probably the most tension we get in the film, because we know that she's not into it, and so if she's not a good actor as a character, it's gonna be a bad time. And like the danger feels very real because we've seen what he can do to people, and so I loved that. Um, the reveal that Anne is on his side and the whole confrontation with Brandon and Anne. I liked. It was predictable as hell. There was no doubt in my mind that
Yeah.
Anne was also going to be bad. But I still liked watching it nonetheless. We also got some great tension in that face off. And you really get to see Molly shine solo, which is nice because we only ever saw her with other people. And so her directly going against the antagonist for the first time is super cool to see. Um, the final breakout and fight was well done. It's kind of cookie cutter apart from the slapstick, and so it didn't really blow me away. But seeing like people slip in blood and Penny kind of just crawling on the floor the whole time, not knowing what to do, there were still a lot of good moments, and it was enough to make it shine on its own.
Yeah, I like that about the kitchen fight. I like that it looks like no one knows
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of these directors not having faith in the female actors and do it to nail the choreography. Because like even just in freaking Reacher, like I was just giving it a compliment to my friend about like, oh man, they care a lot about how good the action is, like it's really cool. And then they brought in this female guest star who who's like a friend from Reacher's past, and she like beats up a guy in a strip club, and it's like the most shaky shit ever. I'm like, you were fine with the female cop, but you gave her
Yeah.
good camera work. Why not this person? Like it shows a lack of faith in your star and in your choreographer, and I think it's cowardly, and I love that this movie didn't do that.
Yeah.
I love that I could really see the knife going into his leg. I love that I could really see
The key sticking out of his head.
yeah, exactly. Show the hit and then show the impact of the hit. That's good action. Yeah, man, they all looked like they were in pain when they were getting hit by him. They were amazing. They were all amazing, all the women and Sebastian Stan.
Absolutely.
And I love the last dance especially. I think that was my favorite dance, just because I like the choreography of it. I do like the first one where it's like cute, awkward, whatever. But
Yeah.
but this one was really special because it felt like because you could really see like he's like, yeah, I found my person finally. And she's like, yeah, I'm finally going to get this person.
Yeah.
And you can see it in both of their faces, and it's really, really special. I really love that. The meet cute with the cotton candy grapes, I thought was really fun.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Have you had cotton candy grapes?
I have. It's very.
They're fucking delicious, man.
I love them. They're great.
Top tier grape.
Yeah, man.
Next episode, top 5 grapes.
Top 5 grapes. There are like 15 grapes, so we could actually do that. Molly. I agree. I like Molly hunting for Noah. I thought that was a good scene in the house. Very tense. The first butcher scene was really, really cool too, when he's just kind of just carving, just
Yeah.
just in his
Just doing
element.
his work.
Yeah, man. You could kind of sense even in the beginning that he's holding something back, but just to see him totally unadulterated and see him happy is extra
Yeah.
twisted, extra
Yeah.
disturbing, and really,
And
really fun.
And it's real nice to montage it the first time
Yeah.
and show like the whole process, because then we know every time she comes back without an ass or you hear somebody else screaming, you know that he's like singing along and like vacuum sealing and like
Yeah.
carefully putting their panties on top of their steak.
So weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Actually, the grossest thing to me actually was the prosciutto as well. I was like,
Yeah. The pan down from the tattoo was sick.
like, like you took the time to smoke it. Like, God, like just when I was like, this movie doesn't faze me at all. I was like, And he's so casual about it. He chews.
Yeah,
and it's a
just
close-up on his
biting off a
mouth
little
chewing.
treat for himself.
Yeah. Gross. Yeah, those were our favorite scenes. Those were fresh. Find it on Hulu. Watch it. Rewatch it if you so choose. Show it to your significant other. See what they think.
We're 1 for 1 so far, so don't fuck up the street.
Yeah, man. Thank you for doing this, Jared. Anything you want to leave the people with?
Absolutely not. I am sick and tired of talking.
Same. Alrighty, folks. We love you. Goodbye.